I'm Laurie and welcome to episode 28 of the Dugout podcast. Of course, alongside me, we've got Alexander Cruikshank, who's normally on hosting duty, and of course, Ethan Barlow. How are you doing, lads? Start with you, Alex.
I'm good, mate. I've got the festive Santa hat on as we're getting close to that time. Although I'm maybe not feeling too festive talking about the football this week. But yeah, it was a good set of games. Obviously, we'll talk about Europe as well, but a lot of good football to talk about.
Yeah, definitely. Maybe you're not feeling too festive after the weekend, but we'll get into that, of course. But Ethan, how are you?
Yeah, all right. Not feeling the best. I've got a wee bit of a throat problem, as you might be able to tell, as the podcast drags on. But yeah, apart from that, all good. How's yourself, Laurie?
Yeah, pretty decent. Thanks for asking, lads. Yeah, I'm not too bad. All the happier with my team finally getting a win and a clean sheet as well. We'll get into that a little bit later on
Yeah,
in the
I
show,
couldn't
but it's
believe
been a bit,
that when I saw that after the initial incident.
yeah. Well, just when you say initial instant, you mean the usual. Um,
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll get into that, I'm sure. But we're going to just look at things. Quite a lot to look at today. We've got Europe. Scottish team in Europe doing pretty well. We'll get into that, of course, and of course the League Cup final, which happened at the weekend. And who can forget a little bit of Premiership action? I mean, we were represented at the League Cup final as well, but more on that later. We'll start off in Europe, and of course it kicked off on. I want to say it was Tuesday night last week
Yeah,
when Celtic were out in Croatia playing Dinamo Zagreb, and it was a pretty drab nil-nil draw, would you say, Ethan?
yeah, definitely. That's how I would explain it. Really, not much quality in the game at all. A really boring watch. Celtic take a point away in Europe. That's 4 games in Champions League undefeated now, but I don't think that really tells the story. I think it's kind of split Celtic fans. Have debated on whether it's a good point to take or whether it's 2 points dropped, and I think it's the latter. I think same as Club Brugge. I think Celtic should be aiming to win those games. But yeah, Celtic will probably still get manage to get in the top 24 um, with that home tie against Young Boys coming in January. But yeah, I thought it was disappointing from Celtic. It wasn't their best game. Um, don't really think there's much to talk about in this game, to be honest. There wasn't really any chances either. Um, but
I
yeah,
think I think Schmeichel made one save um, that I can remember tipped it over, but there wasn't much at all. They didn't really have a. It was strange because Celtic didn't really for maybe the first time this season. They looked like they didn't have anything up top that could really threaten. So it was a strange watch, not a good watch, but I'd agree with Ethan and probably say it is 2 points dropped because Dinamo Zagreb, especially what were they missing, five or six of
I
their
think it might have been
starters?
even more than that.
Yeah,
Maybe even more than that.
they
Yeah.
were missing a lot of their starters, so
Yeah.
I feel like it's one Celtic should have tried to take the 3 points from.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that was probably one of the games when the fixtures came out that I'm sure Celtic and Celtic fans would have targeted as much as going away is never easy in the Champions League. I'm sure that was one of the games that the fans looked at and were like, yeah, that's one that we can maybe get 3 points in, albeit no one was really expecting the team to go on such a run, Dortmund game aside.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I think that they've done really well in the sort of the Atalanta game and the Leipzig game. Then they just let themselves down a bit in the sort of Club Brugge and Dinamo Zagreb game. Um, maybe I'm getting too excited, but I think Celtic have still kind of possibly underperformed a little bit in this season's Champions League. But getting through is something that Celtic haven't done for over 10 years, so maybe you can't have any complaints.
Yeah, I don't know if you can have any complaints, can you? What would you say to that one, Alex?
No, I think I don't think you can, and also I think it is. It maybe is a bit disappointing judging on the aforementioned like run that they've been on. Um, they maybe dangled top eight in front of the Celtic fans, and they thought it was a real possibility, and it's kind of maybe the disappointment is the fact that they can get it, but it's it make no mistake, if they get through, it's a huge success, financial and football. So well done to Brendan Rodgers and the team, because they'll be able to do something. And we debated so many times about whether this new format would benefit the Scottish clubs, or smaller clubs in terms of finance, compared to the European behemoths. Throwing around 50 million like it's nothing. But I think it I think it is, and it's I think it does benefit, and it's well done to Celtic so far. I think because they will progress. I think hopefully for Scotland, but I
Yeah,
think they will
I think.
progress, and it will. Oh, what are you going to say?
No, I was just
Mm.
gonna. Sorry to cut you off. I was just gonna add on your point. I think the game sort of foreshadowed to the weekend's game a lot. Celtic having a lot of the ball and not really doing much with it.
Yeah.
Obviously against two good teams, of course, but yeah, I thought that was kind of the similarities that could be drawn between both games.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a
Definitely,
good
but I
point.
think before we get into I've got a point about that for the weekend game as well. So it could. Uh, uh, Sorry, I've lost my train of thought, but
Yeah,
we'll dive into that when we get to that.
Yeah,
absolutely. We'll dive into that when we get it. So stay tuned for the rest of the episode to hear Alex's thoughts on the League Cup final, of course. But Alex will be giving thoughts, I'm sure, on some of the Thursday night action.
Oh
We'll
yeah,
start off in the Europa Conference League. Well, it's not even called Europa Conference League anymore. They've took out the word Europa, I'm sure. Where Hearts were playing in Denmark against Copenhagen, and Copenhagen ran out 2-0 winners with goals from Sh Shakira and that's all. And I can give you the name of the second guy, and easy enough to remember. Dix, but it's spelled differently. There you go. So it was a fairly routine win for Copenhagen in the end. Hearts, from what I saw of the game, looked pretty poor. I don't know how much you two managed to catch of it, but
so
Hearts did look rather toothless, even with Lauren Shankland up front. Just not a great result for Hearts at all.
yeah. So I was heading out to Ibrox, but I saw the first half, and I thought Hearts looked okay, like competitive. They maybe didn't have that final ball. There was one where Kenneth Vargas, he's he's a headless chicken, honestly. But they looked competitive. They were strong in the challenge. They were making it rough for Copenhagen, from what I saw in the first half. The second half obviously didn't turn out that way. Trying to remember, I know one of the goals is a penalty. I can't remember what the other one was like. Um,
I can't remember the other one, but it was the second one that was the spot kick. So
yeah,
yeah,
and Dix, obviously, he's apart from Mohamed El Yunusi. If you look at the statistics from left back, he's actually Copenhagen's one of their main danger men this season.
yeah,
So
he was a
no
guy
surprise to
who
me when he stepped up to take the spot kick. But it puts a lot of pressure on their game coming up against Petro Club, which everyone expects them to win. However, that's a classic Scottish football banana skin, so you never know.
absolutely classic Scottish football banana skin. And I mean, Hearts are sitting in 23rd at the moment, and they're just ahead of Istanbul by Shakshir by a point. The thing is, like, we were quite all three of us were like borderline complacent about Hearts. I would say even we kind of thought Hearts getting through in the Conference League was going to be a gimme, but don't really know now, do we?
no, no, not at all. I think we talked from about the second game about not leaving it to this Petra Cup game. We obviously they had the sort of easier fixtures at the start of the campaign, you could say, and then the more difficult ones. Copenhagen are a good team. They're top of the Danish league. Maybe not expecting Hearts to go there and win. They could have won, but they got completely dominated on the day, which is fair enough. It was a very similar to the Kilmarnock game in Copenhagen. I thought with the kind of how the game went. But yeah, Hearts. I think they're 2 points ahead of the teams that are outside of the top 24. So they could be okay, but there's I think there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I think there's 6 teams on 7 teams actually on 4 points. So if any of them if enough of them pick up wins to overtake Hearts, then or even points to overtake Hearts, then well, no, they need 2 points actually. Never mind. Bashakshir need a point. But yeah, I think Hearts need to win. I don't think they should be relying on anyone else. Yeah, it's been they've left it to the last minute, and we definitely did, as you said, get complacent about Hearts in this Conference League.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I can obviously give a bit of a take on both Copenhagen and Hearts. And what you say about it being similar to Kilmarnock game in Denmark is fair. You could argue Kilmarnock actually created more against them. I don't have the stats in front of me, but like, and we mentioned it earlier on, Dix, who scored their second goal, he was probably Copenhagen's biggest threat against Kelly as well. So it was no real surprise to see that kind of trend and history repeat itself against Hearts. And Hearts did look quite poor on Sunday. We'll get into that a little bit later. But we will now move on to what was probably the highlight of Thursday night from a Scottish football point of view. Rangers won, Tottenham Hotspur won. Perhaps not a happy return to Glasgow for Ange Postecoglou in the end, I've got to say. But very much a good result for Rangers, or indeed was it? Was it maybe even 2 points dropped? Of course, Rangers did get themselves in front after 47 minutes through Hamza Igaman, but after 75, Spurs got it level through Dejan Kulusevski. So Spurs showed a little bit of quality in the end, but I would say, Alex, Rangers were the better side.
Yeah, definitely. It was, it was a surprise, but not a surprise. I remember telling people in work, I'm probably the only, I think I'm the only Rangers fan in my work, and I was talking to the guys, and I'm like, I think we're gonna get something, and they were all calling me delusional, but there's just something about these European nights at Ibrox. The atmosphere was incredible, and we came out and we went toe to toe with a team that brought off more money off the bench than probably our whole squad. So uh, I think it's a real testament, and to the players and the effort that they put in. And we probably should have won the game because after it was a feeling of pride, but it was also we probably should have taken the 3 points. A superb save from Fraser Forster denying Cyril Dessers' goal of the season after he skinned 3 players, which he weirdly does sometimes. So, and then I'll speak about his performance on Sunday, but a couple of things I've got to say about him actually. But yeah, and it was great. It was a great watch, and it's a good point. Obviously, Rangers still eighth going into these last 2 games. I wouldn't say it's a bad position. Obviously, Man United are very hot and cold, um, and it's you never know. They're a bit like Spurs. You don't know what Man United's going to show up. But if the if the bad Man United show up and Rangers show up like they did, obviously going to Old Trafford's a different story. But show up like they did on Thursday, I feel like they could get something for that game. And Union Saint-Gilloise is probably one they should be winning. Although we don't take it for granted, they're a good team and they've been on the rise for a few years now, bringing in a lot of young talent, like Sir Victor Boniface coming through from there. So make no mistake that they're a good side. But yeah, it was excellent. And a couple of players who I thought were superb was Nico Raskin, who I actually thought was quite good at the weekend as well. Um, he's really emerged as a consistent player. And I can't remember if I said this on the pod last week, but yeah, I said give it a couple of weeks and I'd have Raskin in for Barron in that team this season. I think he's in already. He's unbelievable. Diamande looks like he's really coming onto the game. He looks a bit more physical. than he maybe has been in the past. Hamza Agaman gives us something totally different up top. Obviously, it's a brilliant finish from him. And yeah, it was just a feel good game, and yeah, real important point. Yeah, Spurs' goal was a really good goal, but I'd say Rangers were the better side.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, even just for obviously from your point of view, I mean, I don't know whether you're maybe cheering on Spurs and your former manager, but of course, like, just how much does that show
Oh,
that, you know,
sorry, just before you speak to Ethan, I've got quite a funny point. Obviously, Spurs have bounced back and they've actually got a former Rangers player sacked, so I just thought that was
yeah.
quite a funny
yeah,
point to make.
It's funny. I didn't think they'd even. I thought they might lose to Southampton, to be honest, with how they've been playing. But yeah, they didn't. What
I
was your
mean,
point, Laurie?
well, just on the Southampton point quickly, you wonder where Russell Martin's going to go next because people kind of saw him as like not me personally, but I saw people kind of compare him to obviously Vincent Company, who had the difficult time at Burnley, and has ended up managing to fall upwards and become the manager of Bayern. I'm not saying Russell Martin's going to go that far, but you kind of wonder where he'll end up. But back to what we're saying about the Rangers Spurs game. I mean, like does it just show Ethan how far Scottish football has come in Europe probably over the last couple of years, really, where you're starting to see maybe thanks in part to Rangers helping the coefficient. I'm not even going to hide from that. And where maybe teams have had the opportunity to express themselves in Europe a bit more, be that Aberdeen last season, be that Rangers now getting pointed in Spurs. I feel like more exposure in Europe has actually made Scottish teams a bit more competitive, it feels like.
Yeah, definitely. I think Rangers have obviously been the leading team in Europe for quite a while now. But yeah, I think despite Tottenham not being in the best shape, it's still Tottenham Hotspur. They've still got Ange Postecoglou as their manager, and they've still got world class players. I think you've seen that for their goal. Kulusevski, I think, has been their best player this season, and it's a bit of quality from Kulusevski and Madison, and I can't remember who put in the cross. I think it was Pedro Porro. Um, but
I
yeah, it
think
was
it
a really,
might have actually been Dom Solanke.
yeah. I thought it might have been
Yeah,
Solanke. Looked really
Solanke.
good
Yeah,
when
I think
he
it
came
was
on as
Solanke, but
well.
I mean, I
He
hope
he
Pedro Porro like to return to Scotland.
I think Solanke gave them a physical sort of outlet up top. Um, and I think physical strikers is maybe something the Rangers backline has a more of a problem dealing with. Another point that links into the weekend, I'd say, because I think a certain Adam Ida did really well when he came on for Celtic. So it's yeah, Dom Solanke put the cross in. I think Spurs would add a penalty because I think Tav takes out James Madison.
Yeah,
Um, but it's a nice finish in the end, and you know it was obviously Rangers had their chances towards the end, but yeah, it was 1-1. A point against Spurs I would have bit your hand off for that before the game.
yeah. I
Yeah.
think I said in the prediction, I thought Rangers would get something. I thought they would cause Spurs problems. Obviously on a confidence, on a bit of confidence, and after the run they've been on, fans are starting to see what Clement's doing, even more so over the last two games, I would say. But yeah, it's a really good point for Rangers. Like even though the Rangers were probably the better team for almost all of the game, it's still a great point to take against when you're up against that upper echelon world class quality. And as you said, I thought a few Rangers players were brilliant. Raskin especially was really good. I thought Yilmaz was really good as well, playing in a sort of different position. To you, what do you disagree with Yilmaz, or are you
I know
just
that I think you get someone to
all
say
right?
there.
Okay, just referring to the weekend. But no, I thought Yilmaz was really good.
Yeah, Yilmaz was really good. Yeah,
Um,
he just maybe doesn't have that end product. So, which
yeah,
maybe we saw, but Sorry,
No, I
I've
thought no, I
No, no,
thought
it's
for
fine.
Rangers as well. It's impressive when you're taking out players like Danilo and Hadji, that kind of been well before the weekend were kind of key parts of that new Rangers setup. You take them out, and it's still the players that are coming in are still doing a job. And yeah, Rangers were really unlucky not to take all the points. Yeah,
Yeah, I think they were maybe a bit unfortunate in the end, but it is one that I'm sure the Rangers fans will look back on. I mean, they do seem to have turned the corner in recent weeks, pretty much ever since absolutely smashing my team, Kilmarnock. But you know what? These things happen. But away from a week to be somewhat proud of in Europe, although it maybe does feel like a missed opportunity for all three teams really. We're going to a rather high scoring weekend in the Premiership before looking at the League Cup final from Sunday. So results wise, pretty much again high scoring is probably a fair description. So Hibs 3, Ross County 1. So Hibs, maybe Alex is turning a bit of a corner. I know a few weeks ago on the pod we were discussing could David Gray's days be numbered? But I mean, maybe he's starting to get something right here because of his, a goal from Dwight Gale, a penalty from Ellie Yuan, and for Hibs as well, you had Josh Campbell get on the score sheet, but of course Ross County, Elijah Campbell got the goal for them, put them in front. But I mean, coming from behind to win isn't really something that we thought within Hibs' DNA, was it?
no, definitely not. I'm just going to put full disclaimer here before I we sort of go into talking about the weekend's games. I haven't seen anything from any of them. I've kind of I've had a wee bit of a weird couple of days, and I've kind of forgot. But I'm sorry to the watchers and listeners. But yeah, I can speak. I can speak. I think I can speak to Hibs form because you seen. I think you saw it. It started with Aberdeen, and then obviously they battered Motherwell, and they had that. Although they lost 3-0, they were good against Celtic, and I think you saw signs, and they've turned that into another win. And it's looking fairly positive for Hibs. And I would never have thought out the three sort of bigger teams who are at the bottom of the table that they would be the ones to start to turn it around. It looks like they're finally making good on their attacking talent and showing a bit of defensive solidity as well. Um, and yeah, I think David Gray has maybe saved himself for the time being, and the Hibs fans they'll be happy to see they're finally putting together a string of results.
yeah.
Yeah, what I feel could be a big moment for Hibs and David Gray. I don't know what you necessarily think, Ethan, is when the two sides next meet in the derby, which I'm sure is on Boxing Day. I'm sure that's the lunchtime kickoff on Boxing Day. Yeah, there's an Edinburgh derby, lunchtime on Boxing Day at Tynecastle. That's going to be massive for both sides of Edinburgh, isn't it?
Yeah, I think going into the last game, I thought even though Hearts weren't great, I thought they would beat Hibs quite easily. But now maybe you would think it'd be the other way, but it obviously doesn't always go that way in those games. But yeah, Hibs, as Alex said, out of the kind of teams at the bottom, you wouldn't have expected Hibs to kind of emerge as an on-form team. I think you would have put Hearts in front of them to sort of turn it round, but Hibs have obviously been the ones to do that. I've seen a lot of Hibs fans weren't happy with their performance at the weekend, which I thought was a bit strange. But yeah, they looked good from what I seen on the highlights. They scored three again, which is the third time they've done it in 4 games, not having done it before that. Yeah, for Ross County, it's not looking too good at the moment. 2 wins in the last 12, so yeah, it's not looking too great for Don Cowie, and it's going to be a scrap at the bottom. And it could go either way because there's a few teams down there that are really in the thick of it, and the Hearts as well. They've got to start picking up points, otherwise they'll be in major trouble. But yeah, I think Ross County were the better team in the first half. They obviously got that goal that you mentioned, Laurie. thought it was a really nice finish from Elijah Campbell. It was a sort of difficult header to take, rebounds off the post, and he manages to squeeze it in. But yeah, after that, Hibs were pretty dominant. Dwight Gale scored a strange goal. And then I think it was the penalty after that, which Nicky Cadden's penalty was saved. And then Ellie Yuan steps up for the one they get 3 minutes later. He scores his. I think that's Ellie Yuan's first goal of the season, which probably shows the state that his sort of form and Hibs have been in. And yeah, and then they get the third one with Josh Campbell, set up by Ellie Yuan to finish Ross County off. But yeah, Hibs are building up momentum in a good time. And obviously, the busy Christmas period. But yeah, it's looking good for Hibs at the moment.
Yeah, and I mean the thing is, Ross County never win on the road. I don't think they've tasted victory away from Dingwall in I want to say about a year and a half. They've got a good
Yeah,
record at home, but they're horrific away. But moving away from Edinburgh, we're heading into Lanarkshire now. Motherwell 4, Dundee United 3. I mean, this could arguably be game of the weekend in terms of goals and action. Arguably, because there's something more important coming up on Sunday out of the Premiership. This is probably the one, although there were quite a few crackers in there. So for Motherwell on the score sheet, you had the Greek striker who's not Greek. We had Andy Halliday and Tom Sparrow. And for Dundee United, Sam Dolby got on the score sheet twice to make himself the Premiership's top scorer. And Louis Moult got a goal against his former club. And to be fair to him, he didn't celebrate. But I mean, a massive result for Motherwell.
I
I
don't
mean,
like that not celebrating. I think that's dumb.
yeah, that's a good debate. Would you celebrate
That's
if you're
my
your own
take
club?
on that.
to be fair to Louis Moult, I think he would have celebrated if it had like equalised or something, because I'm pretty sure he celebrated in the was it the Premier Sports Cup when Dundee United scored against Motherwell, and I think he
Yeah,
celebrated.
yeah. To be fair, that goal from Mo what was to make it 4-3. If it made it 4-all, would he have maybe showed a bit more emotion? I don't know. But yeah, I mean, a big result from Motherwell, which surprisingly actually lifts them to fourth in the table, ahead of Dundee United by a point. So
So weird because we
yeah,
were we just the last episode we were talking about. Oh, Motherwell are in trouble here. Now
yeah.
they're ahead of Dundee United again. It's so odd.
I think it might be down to the sort of head to head record, because I think they played 3 times this season. One was in the Premier Sports Cup, as I mentioned. I think Motherwell have won all 3 of them, which is strange because Jim Goodwin and these players just can't seem to get the better of Motherwell. Obviously, Motherwell had that wee sort of spell where we thought they might fall down the table, but Kettlewell's pulled it back together, back to back wins. And yeah, it was Dundee United's first loss since the end of October, so it shows the sort of form that they've been on. But yeah, it was a really good game, as you said, Laurie. Brilliant game with some good goals. Yeah, and as you mentioned, Sam Dalby, top scorer now outright. I think he's got 8 in the league,
Yeah.
which is really good for him. He's been really impressive since coming on loan from Wrexham. Is it? No, it's not. Is it Wrexham? Was it?
I think Wrexham sounds right. It's English low
Yeah.
leagues anyway. And yeah, and moving on to the final Saturday game anyway. In Perth, it was St Johnstone 2, St Mirren 3, with goals from Killian Phillips to give St Mirren a lead after 10 minutes. Kim Pioka gets it level for the Perth Saints, but of course, let's say he made it 2-1 as well, so a double for Kimbioka, but they let it slide, and I'm sure Simo Balakari wasn't too happy with that.
On it, I've
As
got down here. It was Mackenzie Kirk that scored for
yeah,
Yeah, I think it
Mackenzie
was
Dundee.
Mackenzie Kirk that
Mackenzie
got the
got
first
it
one.
level, sorry, indeed, you're right. My apologies. And Evan Mooney, who's only 17, and his second appearance, I think, for St Mirren, makes it 2-all, and then right at the end, Roland Aduwu made it 3-2 to St Mirren with a late penalty. I mean, we're maybe not the most well informed in this one between the three of us. I can think of two people in our uni class who would be all over this one. But I tell you what, a big result for St Mirren anyway.
Yeah, definitely. I think both those people you're referring to said that they would have bit your hand off for a win based off how they played in Perth. Um, but yeah, I think another solid win for St Mirren. They're obviously in that top six, and they'll just be wanting to stay there. For St Johnston, I mean, it's just unfortunate for them that they score goals. They play some decent football, but it's just not really clicking at the moment for them. But I think St John's main aim when they got Valakari in would have been to stay up, and I think if they can do that, then they'll be doing well. But yeah, some good goals, some good interplay for the St Mirren's opening goal. Mandron plays a nice ball through to Phillips. Then Mackenzie Kirk gets another goal. I think that's his fifth of the season. He's been a really good player to come up through the ranks for St Johnstone. And then Kimpioka, you think at that time with less than 10 minutes left, maybe he's got the winner to make it 2-1. That's his 11th for the season, six in the Premiership for Kimpioka. But then, yeah, as you mentioned, a brilliant moment for Evan Mooney.
Yeah.
Yeah, the 17-year-old. And then the penalty drama at the end when Markahara has another penalty saved. I think he's already had one saved this season. And then they obviously take him out the firing range and hand it to Dowu, who slots it in for a
I,
big win.
I actually heard that he done a muscle and he wanted to take the penalty, but he made Idowu take it for him. So
Yeah,
No.
yeah, I think yeah, you're right, Alex. I'm almost sure they said in commentary that he pulled up and he took the penalty.
yeah,
Oh.
When he felt somebody, he took the penalty. So yeah,
and
that's a
he wanted to step up and take it himself, but they kind of went, nah, mate, you're not taking it.
Yeah,
So
can't be
I tell you
risking
what,
that, especially.
they
Sorry.
made the right decision. It
Yeah.
seems so. It was an interesting weekend in the Premiership, and it wasn't finished on Saturday. Of course, there was another game on the Sunday before we get to the League Cup final, and that was at Rugby Park, where Kilmarnock, of course, team close to my heart, take on Hearts, and Kelly ran out 1-0 winners in the end, thanks to a Bruce Anson penalty. But of course, that really doesn't tell the story at all as of course the game didn't start off all too well for Kelly. I mean, we struggled to defend the corner that Hearts maybe should have scored off of, but they didn't, which I mean we're thankful for. And then Kelly did what Kelly always do, and we all know by this point, shall we say, now red card number 7 of the season came after 6 minutes, where Robbie Dees, or as someone in Sky called him, Robbie Diaz, he must be Spanish, got sent off for a pretty awful challenge on Vargas, where he could have got a serious injury. I mean, it was a yellow upgraded to a red, and that was that I kind of thought the writing was on the wall for Kelly at that point. I thought Hearts are going to show their quality here. As much as they've had a bad start to the season, not a bad side, but I thought they would maybe show their quality. But then after 11 minutes, Derek McInnes makes a rather unpopular substitute. He sacrifices Bobby Wales in favour of David Watson, and that actually worked. In fairness, Watson played really well, but McInnes got booed. But you know what? He seemed to get the tactics right. And then, of course, as we said, after 18 minutes, Kelly get a penalty after Joe Wright is effectively kicked in the face by James Penrice, to which he does get booked, but a lot of Kelly fans call for a red. Anderson converts his penalty, 1-0 Kelly, and Kelly do manage to hold on. I've got to say, it was probably Kelly's best defensive performance of the season and only our second clean sheet. I don't know how much of the game you saw, Alex or Ethan. I don't know how much you saw of it, but I mean, did you catch the red card incident? I think you maybe did, going by the comments
oh,
about ref watch.
yeah, I did catch the red card incident, and no no arguments from me. It was a really shocking challenge, and although Kilmarnock did get the win, I don't think we should paper over the cracks that we've been talking about it all season. There's a real discipline problem at Rugby Park. You know,
It is.
what is that? Their
Yep, seven.
seventh red card of the season, and now Robbie Dees is getting involved. He was feeling a bit left out with all the others. He's like, "I'll jump in, I'll get involved." And it's we're in December. Kamara
Yeah.
had 7 red cards, which is crazy. Obviously, it's a great result for the win. Um, you know, getting their second clean sheet this season. I think that's 4 points in December now. Correct me if I'm
Yep,
wrong.
go on.
Undefeated in December, which is they're already doing better than they did in November. Um,
Yep.
so, but yeah, it's mental and it's a really, really bad challenge. He goes in with such force right on top of the ankle, like between the ankle and the shin.
Aye.
And
And when you watch it slowed down on VAR, it's one of those you're like, you're lucky it wasn't an ankle breaker or any serious
yeah,
injury.
Kenneth Vargas is lucky he didn't get a real bad injury from that. And yeah, the like I said, really good result. But what Laurie, what does McInnes need to do? Because I heard he introduced fines and he was taking all sorts of precautions, measures to try and stop this, but it seems to not be changing. What do you think the Kelly manager has to do?
To be honest, I'm at a bit of a loss about it. I mean, as you say, he brings in the fines for what I think Kel Vassell called silly tackles. I mean, congratulating him, by the way. I think his missus had just given birth. That's why he wasn't in the squad on Sunday.
Oh, congratulations to Kel Vassell then.
Yep, but he was making the silly fouls in training and like the fines for it. You would think that would work, and then Derek McInnes tried the publicly throw the player under the bus. He tried that with Joe Wright, and he said about the 2 weeks' wages fine. But I mean, it seems to have worked with Joe. The penny seems to have dropped with him in recent weeks. But like
He's just
on the
passed it
whole,
on.
but that's it. It seems to have just passed it on. It seems to be very much contagious throughout the entire club. I don't know. I really don't know the answer to it. I tell you what, they're going to have a good Christmas night out, let me tell you. But I don't know, like I really don't know how we're going to actually kind of curb this because McInnes has tried everything you can really think of. And I mean, Derek McInnes often says in the press, and you hear the players say it as well, the line of "We're not a dirty team." And if you look it up, we actually don't foul very much. Like we're like the third or fourth, least fouls against. And I remember having this conversation by chance a few weeks ago with Joe Wright, funnily enough, who were kind of saying the same thing, and like just we just don't really get it. I mean, Joe was saying he feels, the team have been a bit unfortunate with a couple of the red cards. You could argue some of them, but you certainly couldn't argue Sunday. My goodness.
Yeah, I think that is a problem for Kilmarnock because ultimately they got the win at the weekend, but they're not going to win. They're not going to get many points if they keep getting red cards. It's something that they give themselves a lot better chance if they stopped getting as many. I mean, 7 by before the turn of the year is
Yeah.
ridiculous.
Well, because sorry to jump in on your point there, but they're hampering themselves in the game, and then obviously they have crucial players suspended. Like Robbie Dees is a good player, make no mistake about it,
Yeah.
and he'll be suspended for the next one. I don't know what is it. Is it 2 match for straight reds?
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
so.
yeah,
So
too.
for the next two games, the weekend and I think Boxing Day,
Yep.
he'll be he won't be in the squad, and obviously that's a big blow, especially for a team that are fighting for their lives at the bottom of the table.
Yeah,
Absolutely,
definitely.
absolutely. I mean, it's a massive blow, especially now with Stuart Finlay being out injured until March. I mean, and we're missing our best defender as it is. So I mean,
Yeah,
that
you
that was
can
that
you
was
can't
that
afford to
was
lose any more defensive reinforcements when you're in that situation. It's just,
no.
and I don't even know why. Sorry, I've jumped over the two of you here, but I don't even know why he's gone in like that. Like it's it's mental.
No, it was a nothing challenge. I mean, it was just one of those. nothing challenged right at the start of the game. And I think that was maybe why Don Robertson, the on-field referee, initially brandished a yellow because he's like, it's your first foul, mate. But then obviously VAR, quite rightly, go kind of screaming in his ear. But that's it. There was no real pressure on it at all. I get that Vargas is
Well,
quick,
at least
and whenever
VAR
we
did something right this weekend.
that's true, and we'll get into that very shortly. But I mean, it was a massive win for Kelly. It took us up to eighth in the league, and if we lost that, we'd have been where Hearts are now, rock bottom, and we'd have been there at Christmas. But ain't a good look. But it shows you how mad the league is. You mentioned it with Motherwell a bit earlier on the show. Like we went from it could have been bottom, but we've ended up being eighth, and I mean eighth's not tragic for Kelly, if you will. It's really not.
Yeah, and I think we mentioned a few times on the podcast before. I mean, this decision obviously didn't come with choice, but McInnes starting both Bobby Wales and Bruce Anderson, which I think we called for on the podcast. But obviously, as you mentioned, Bobby Wales comes off early as the kind of sacrifice after the red card. But yeah, I think McInnes showed his class with kind of getting the result, a brilliant result. I know Hearts are a poor team; they're bottom of the league, but to to have a clean sheet after having 10 men for, well, I'd imagine probably 90 minutes with injury
Yeah,
time.
yeah, yeah.
It's a really, really great result for Kilmarnock. But for Hearts, Neil Critchley, I'm becoming less confident that they are going to turn it round. I think we keep saying, "Oh, Hearts are playing well. The results are going to come," but yeah, it's starting to die down a little. They've obviously got to pick themselves up because they've got that massive game on Thursday, which I think we'll get onto later in the show.
Yeah, I mean, Neil Critchley was not happy, man. Post match, I don't know if any of you heard his comments. He just seemed really angry. You see, he was like, "I've never seen this sort of performance from this group of players." And they were starting to do all that stuff, which is the sort of stuff a manager comes out with when they're a bit lost. Would you say that's maybe fair comment, Alex? That maybe he's seeming a bit at a loss of what to do next, Neil Critchley.
Yeah, definitely. I'm kind of at a loss with what to make of Hearts. One
Hmm.
week they look like they're back on track and Shankland's scoring again, and then the next week they're turning out performances like this. It's yeah, it's strange. They're a very strange club, and I can't imagine it's much fun being a Jambo supporter right now.
No, I don't think it is. And any jambos that I come across, aren't particularly happy at the moment. Just it's not. It's just something isn't right there, and no one really knows what it is, especially after doing so well last season. But I mean, I don't really feel like they've moved forward under Critchley. I'm not saying Stephen Naismith was the guy, but they don't seem to have moved forward.
No, I'd
No,
agree. I'd agree with that. I'm sorry, definitely, I'd agree. I think you kind of got that maybe the show. Regular viewers will know I love the term new manager bounce. I think they did get a slight new manager bounce under Critchley where they looked like, oh, maybe they are going to turn it around. They've got some good quality players, but they're kind of back in the same rut. They're still at the bottom of the league. Um, and yeah, they need to start picking up points because the Hearts fans won't take being the bottom of the table. And if Kritzer can't sort it out, he'll come into the firing line.
Yeah, that's very much what's going to happen. I could see him maybe not lasting beyond this season, but time will very much tell with Hearts and Neil Critchley, but a good win for the mighty Kelly, I've got to say. But we're not really here for that. As much as I'm a Commander fan, we are not really here for that in this episode of the Dugout. We're here for the main event, the League Cup final, Premier Sports Cup final, whatever you want to call it. Celtic free, Rangers free. What a game. What an advert for Scottish football. Alex, you were there. Take us through it.
yeah, I was there in the press box, so had a great view of the game. And it was, I think, I was there for the university UWS. I wrote an article for the new WS newsroom, and I think the opening phrase I used, it was a heavyweight fight. that came down to the left glove of Kasper Schmeichel, and it was two teams going toe to toe, two teams that had their bad moments in the game, I'd say, who had their mistakes, but it was real. It was a really good watch actually, and um, obviously Rangers lost, which is not good. It's always heartbreaking, especially when on penalties. But it's the only I feel I can't really fault many of them. I've got a couple of gripes, I'd say, but uh, it was a great game, and the players gave their all. Um, I think you could tell from both sets of players as well in extra time. They were both just absolutely knackered. They couldn't. Extra time was a bit of a bore because both sets of players were really tired. Um, but yeah, Rangers were really good. I think Ethan mentioned earlier about Celtic having a lot of the ball, and not maybe not doing a lot with it. Obviously, they did score 3 goals. That kind of came from, I'd say, one of them obviously came from a corner, and then the other two maybe from, counter attacking scenarios. But um, I think Rangers' game plan was to let them have the ball and go long. Jack Butland, I think I saw a stat. He played 27 long balls in the game. And I think it was effective. I think Rangers' game plan was go long, get onto the second balls, try and force Celtic into mistakes. And they did that for the first goal. It was Diamande pressing Greg Taylor, but then gave it away to Nadeem Bayrami, slipping in. Hamza Igaman, Schmeichel made a good save, but Bayrami was there to follow up and put it away for 1-0. And it was definitely a game of it was like quite a streaky game. I thought both teams really had their moments of like dominance, I think. And, it really was one you really couldn't separate the two. I don't think there was a clear better team on the day. And unfortunately for Rangers, Celtic did get the win in the penalty shootout. But yeah, it was also I just want to, you know, bring up this point. I don't think anyone could question this group of players' mentality anymore. After that, they go 2-1 down quick as you like. They came out at the start of the second half. They looked like, Rangers might get a couple more goals here. They might solidify the win. Celtic, get that deflected goal, and then they hit them again with some really nice play. No, that's the third goal actually. They hit them again. Daisen Maida obviously latching onto a mistake. But it was a great take from him and a great finish. And I was at that point. I was kind of thinking, oh, Celtic are going to go on to score another one here, and or they're going to coast for the rest of the game, as they do. Once they get a grip of the game, they very rarely let go. But Rangers equalised, and it just seemed. I don't think it was planned either because I think the players took it into their own hands to just start, trying stuff. Quick, short corners, Celtic weren't set. I think Tav was jogging over to take it, and Agaman just passed it to him, got it back from him, put the ball in. And it was I think Diamandi was holding off Arnott Engels to just poke it in, and it was good. And then you think Celtic win with a goal from Nicholas Kuhn. I'm sure Nicholas Kuhn thought he'd won it by the celebrations, and then Rangers go up again and they equalise, and I'm kind of thinking I think it's a real benchmark of how far they've progressed in these short weeks. You go 4 weeks ago, the difference is night and day. For Rangers, they, I'm I'm really proud of them, and I know that sounds like you know maybe you could say it's like a loser mentality kind of thing, but they were really good, and I don't think you can fault them. And Celtic obviously won on penalties, but it was a really fun watch. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just going to
And
say, you're going to say something there, Laurie.
yeah, just quickly, just saying. I mean, that was really, insightful, Alex, and good to get the dugout a little bit of you know, a little bit of a view from the press box. I mean, you were probably treated to having a wee monitor in front of you with the Premier Sports feed
Oh,
on.
I didn't get the monitor. I was on the desk straight at the
Ah,
monitor.
oh,
But
that's unfortunate.
it
No,
was a good day. I got chatting to a Dutch journalist as well who was there for the game, so it was
yeah,
quite interesting.
yeah, good to see Scottish football getting that coverage as well. Good to see, people coming over from Netherlands to check it out, and even from the perspective of Celtic, which is obviously more your sort of area, like what was it overriding the most now that just relief, or is there a bit of frustration that that Celtic have managed to let Rangers into it, but that's not take away from Rangers' performance, but just what's the overriding feeling amongst the Celtic support?
Yeah, I think relief. As soon as Dyson does penalty hits the back of the net, it's relief. You can relax. I don't think there was any point in that game where there was much relaxing. Yeah, I think the first half. I think most of what Alex said, I can agree with. I think the first half was, um, as Alex mentioned, you could see the clear game plan that Clement had set out for the Rangers players. Just it was like a brilliant, just nullifying Callum McGregor performance. I think Rangers just they kind of they set up their press and they kept McGregor out of the game. And Celtic had to rely on trusty Carter Vickers and Greg Taylor, and sometimes Alistair Johnson, but more often Greg Taylor to kind of create Celtic's passing and going forward. And they're not the players that are going to do it. Greg Taylor, he's good at getting on the ball most of the time. And I think he comes under some criticism, Greg Taylor, but I think there's a reason why Brendan Rodgers has always stuck by him and Ange Postecoglou always stuck by him. But I think, as Alex mentioned, it is a massive mistake for the first goal. It's brilliant pressing from Rangers, from Diamande, and then Bajrami picks up the ball. And it's a good goal for Rangers and what they deserved in that first half, because Celtic didn't really create anything going forward. They had that one chance with Nicholas Kuhn where he burst down the right hand side. But apart from that, it was mostly Rangers who had the kind of counter attacking threat. And Celtic didn't have any answers to what Rangers were doing. Second half, first 15 minutes, I would say was the same. Obviously, Rangers had that massive chance, the 4-against-1. Taylor loses the ball deep in Rangers half, and then Rangers counter attack. And I think it was a Igaman who made the wrong decision.
Yeah, I don't know what he's thinking. He's got two players to the left of him. Carter Vickers is in front of him, but he's sort of showing towards Barami on the right. So just give it to one of the two guys on the left, and I think it's pretty much a guaranteed goal.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think. Oh, sorry, Laurie, but you're going to say something
I
there.
was, I was gonna say, is that one that Rangers look back on it with a bit of frustration, a bit like we were saying earlier on about the Spurs game, maybe that Dessers chance was that kind of big chance.
I,
Is Eggman not giving it to someone on the left, one of those moments
I
that
don't know
Rangers
if
fans just
it's
look back on?
I don't know if it would be. It's just because of the way the game turned out, but
Yeah,
it's definitely a frustration, and decision making is definitely something that Rangers in the attacking third can improve on. Obviously, I think they've started getting more goals from more areas, which is a positive. But I think their decision making is definitely something to look to.
Yeah, I think that in my opinion, I thought that was a turning moment in the game. I think Rangers score that. I can't see a way back for Celtic. I couldn't even see a way back for Celtic at the time when it was still 1-0. I think Brendan Rodgers made the change at half time, the tactical one. Austin Trusty off for Liam Scales. What he's seen in that, I don't know. I couldn't see it, but it worked. I think Scales was probably slightly better on the ball. Obviously, Celtic get the goal from the corner, the Greg Taylor one, which is quite lucky. deflects in off Raskin. There's not really much he can do. Raskin had another great game.
Oh, was it Raskin, was it?
Yeah, I think they
Oh,
thought it might have been
I put
proper.
Robin Proper in my article.
Yeah, I think it was. I think it looked like Robin Proper, but I think it was Raskin. But yeah, that was, and at that point, Celtics definitely were playing a bit better. And then they get the second goal, which is just typical Dyson Maeda. Massive game player for Celtic. The amount of goals he scored against Rangers, he's obviously the top scorer for Celtic in the Champions League this season.
One point I do want to make about Dyson Maeda, it was a really good goal from him. However, I thought for the first time maybe ever, Tavernier dealt really well with him.
Yeah, definitely.
Throughout the whole game. Obviously the mistake and the pressing from him, that doesn't sort of come from him playing through Tavernier. It comes from great play, pressing from him, poor play from Rangers. It was a great take and a great finish. That is one thing I wanted to highlight. A lot of people were talking about Tavernier, and then he's got this run back in the team. He was great against Spurs. People were still maybe going, "Oh, put Dujon Sterling in," but I thought he dealt with him really well.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely agree. Dyson Maeda had his moments, but Tavernier had his moments as well. And when you're up against a player like Maeda, he's an international. He's scored at World Cups. He's gonna be having his moments. And he had his moment not related to Tavernier, as you said. Raskin headers back to Balogun, who's a little bit on his heels, and Dyson Maeda the wrong man to be on your heels around. It's a brilliant goal. Maybe the best in the game. Although there was no absolute outstanding goals, but I thought that Maeda one was just typical of his kind of play. And I think at that point, as you said, I thought Celtic were going to go on to kind of score maybe a few more, but it never happened. And that's got where you've got to credit Rangers, especially because Rangers' game plan was off of punishing Celtic errors and possession, and Rangers had to come out and go for a goal. They had to come out and create their own chances, and they did. And that's where you've got to really credit Clement.
Yeah.
I think the goal, as you mentioned, Diamande does well. I thought Diamande was really good as well. I think it's poor from Arne Engels, who, apart from Celtic's third goal, I thought he really did have a poor afternoon coming off the bench. But yeah, good goal from Diamande. Deflects off Kyogo, I think, before going in. Then Celtic get the goal with poor play from Yilmaz, who I thought didn't have a great game. I thought Jeffrey didn't have a great game dealing with Nicholas Kuhn either, but Yilmaz was maybe even worse than Jeffrey was. And then it's sort of just Engels and Kuhn galloping down the right-hand side. Engels does really well to pick Kuhn out. I think he always knows that he's going to pass it back to Kuhn. And it's a simple finish for Kuhn. At that point, I think Celtic, everyone thinks Celtic are going to go on to win the game, and then Rangers score again. Brilliant cross from Czerny, who I thought was really good as well. Good header from Danilo, and then we get extra time.
I think that was his first touch.
Was it?
Yeah, which is kind of mad.
Maybe going by highlights, yeah.
I didn't even pick up on that.
And one more kind of point or storyline to bring up on the game before we kind of wrap up on it. The penalty shootout itself was of a fairly high standard, but there was one kind of real moment of controversy or bone of contention, and it was the fact that Cyril Dessers didn't step up. In fairness, the Rangers goalkeeper Jack Butland did, who expertly converted his penalty. But Alex, as someone who was in the stadium, was everyone a little bit surprised when Dessers doesn't, take it upon himself to step up to the mark?
Yeah, I was definitely surprised. It was funny. Obviously, Ridvan didn't convert his, but it was a great save from Kasper Schmeichel. He sort of, pushed it back out. And I think if Ridvan, if he wanted to score, he would have had to go the other way or so bottom corner that Schmeichel couldn't get to. It was a great save. But yeah, Dessers is definitely one that I think he should have stepped up. He's taken penalties before for Rangers. I don't know what happened. And it was kind of confusing as well because when Jack Butland was taking the penalty, everyone was kind of looking to the the halfway line going, what, what, are Rangers, are they just giving up? Like, who's, I was like, what's happened here? Why is no one going to take the penalty? And then I saw Jack Butland and I was like, oh my God, if he misses this, and he didn't, in the end, it didn't matter. His Dyson made up it away the winning penalty, but
Yeah,
it was definitely Cyril Dessers is one that I think should have been one to step up for Rangers, and he didn't. And maybe Ethan, I think, has mentioned that he thinks it's because they've obviously went over this in training, and those were the five best. But if one thing I thought was interesting, I think Tav said something along the lines of, I'm proud of the guys who were man enough to go up and take one. Does that maybe suggest that there were a couple that backed out and went, nah?
I'm absolutely. That's what I think that suggests anyway.
Yeah, I
Which is
think.
interesting. It shows the kind of fragility that we've not seen in Rangers in recent weeks. We've certainly seen it before, but I mean that seems to be kind of on the way out. So hopefully it's just a minor wobble in that regard in terms of kind of the fragility of certain individuals.
Yeah, sorry. An interesting point that I think it was Charlie Mulgrew made in the post match. He was talking about the Scottish Cup semi final, which Celtic obviously lost to Rangers on penalties, and he said that he sort of Tom Rogic was next to take his penalty, and he was kind of like, "Right, Tom, it's your turn to go," and Tom Rogic was a wee bit reluctant. Obviously, he went on to miss it, and maybe that's the same with Dessers. You don't want to sort of pressure someone to take one who doesn't want to take one. And I think that's probably why he didn't take one. He wasn't on the pitch for long either, which is an argument.
You say that though, Redvan looked like he didn't want to take it either.
Yeah, that
True.
is a good point. But there's always a difference between saying you're going to take one and then looking like you want to take one when you're standing over the ball. I think that's the kind of difference. And it's obviously it's a mental game. And I thought Dessers come on. I thought Dessers would actually come onto the pitch a bit earlier than he did because I didn't think Agamani had the sort of effect, the
I
long
thought he
lasting
was
effect.
good. I thought he was
Yeah.
good though. He didn't really do what he would normally do, but I think he was
Yeah.
good in sort of the rough, sort of dark arts kind of element of the game and just making it a bit more difficult for the Celtic centre backs.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it probably just became a matter of stamina for him, obviously having, played his part in the European game as well. Yeah.
yeah. I think, yeah. I think on the penalties, yeah, I think Celtic, the penalty takers were quite standard. I thought a few of them might miss. I thought Arne Engels was going to miss, to be honest.
I thought I genuinely thought he was going to miss as well.
I thought he just didn't have a
Yeah.
great game at all. He's obviously a young man stepping up. I thought he would have taken first as Celtic's kind of recognised penalty taker, but he obviously took third and he scored. I think he scored 4 penalties for Celtic and they've all went down that side. I think Butland knew he was going that side, but he just hit it with a little bit too much power. But yeah, it was the fine margins and yeah, even extra time was just, as you said, Alex, it was a bit of a slog. Both teams didn't want to sort of commit too much to get the winner. And then the only kind of sort of talking point in extra time was the sort of
The
penalty.
penalty that Rangers should have had because it was a clear penalty.
Yeah,
Because
I
it was
think
in the
it was.
box. It's factual. There's no debate over it. Bobby Madden's, he does his review and stuff. It's factual. It's a penalty. I don't know
Yeah.
what's happened with VAR there, or
And I'm
they
sure
said on commentary VAR checked it and they're satisfied with the free kick.
I'm
Come on.
sure the SFA, who will not like to do this on an SPFL tournament, I'm sure the SFA have put out a statement now, discussing it as well. I mean, just I think they tried to avoid it, but I mean the officials, I don't actually know who they were off the top of my head. The officials have had an absolute shocker with that.
I think
You
it
can't
was.
you can't have that level of incompetence in a League Cup final. Obviously,
No,
it hurts me a bit more because it negatively affected Rangers. But it is shocking from the
Yeah,
referees. And Liam Scales has
Yeah,
got away with one there because Czerny takes it off him and he panics and he just grabs onto him, and
yeah,
it's a penalty. And you know, um, there's no point in griping about it like I'm griping about it, but not going,
yeah,
oh, that cost us the game or whatever. The point I'm making is you can't have that level of incompetence
yeah.
in a league in a national cup final. Basically, it's just so poor.
Yeah, spot on. Well, what we'll say, not too long left in this episode, but what we will say is from all of us here on the Dugout podcast, a massive congratulations to Celtic and commiseration to Rangers as well, but in a positive sense of they've done themselves proud, and if they can, if they can obviously, keep going where they're going. You don't know how achievable the Scottish Cup may be. So, I mean, Philippe Clement may well still celebrate a trophy this season for Rangers. So, just one more wee thing about the League Cup final. We were talking there about the penalty decision, which has caused a bit of controversy. Um, I mean, myself and Alex are both fairly convinced that it's a penalty and that it's a factual decision from the referee on VR, or that's how it should be. But Ethan, it turns out that you have an argument to the contrary.
no, I was just winding you up. I think it's a
Oh,
stonewall penalty. I think,
you
yeah,
heard me.
Liam Scales.
Just for context, what viewers and listeners, before we hit the record, Ethan was saying I'm going to argue why it's not a penalty, and he really got me riled up. But
Yeah, I was just winding Alex up. I think it is definitely a penalty. I think Liam Scales gets caught on the ball. I think the argument was that um, John Beaton blew his whistle for when Scales kicks Czerny, which he didn't. I don't think John Beaton blew his whistle until all the players had already stopped because it was an obvious foul. Um, so I really don't understand what they're doing in the VAR room, why they're not looking at it. Or I'm guessing they did look at it, but I don't know why they're not instructing that to be a penalty. Um, Fair enough, John Beaton doesn't give it at the time because it's difficult to see it is right on the line. He is probably filling him out the box as well as he's filled him in the box. But yeah, I think a clear penalty. And yeah, it's really unfortunate that was the fine margins that the game fell to, and that'll be the talking point for days to come. Yeah, but yeah, that was that. And Rangers will feel even more hard done by. That they were on the wrong side of that decision. But yeah, that was just my point to make on the penalty.
yeah, one thing before we finish up, I want to make. I've said it before, I'll say it again. Extremely proud of the players. Rangers are on an upturn in form. It was a good performance, and it's given me confidence going into what will be quite a big game in January the 2nd. Obviously, Celtic are 11 points clear. If Rangers can get a win from that, maybe um, they, it's down to 8, and then maybe they can call the title race back into question. Obviously, it's still unlikely, even if they do win, but it will give them a boost if they do win. If Celtic win, I think that's it, confirmed, done and dusted. But this performance has definitely given me confidence going into January.
Yeah, understandably so. I think the 2nd of January will be an interesting watch. I could see a scenario, especially after Sunday. I could see
Oh,
a scenario where Rangers
we
do it.
forgot about have we forgot about Hearts? We nearly wrapped it up without talking about Hearts.
No,
Yeah, well,
I remembered about Hearts and the
yeah, we gave them a very brief mention earlier on. I mean, of course, Hearts are playing Petrol Club on Thursday night in the Conference League at Tynecastle. Of course, if if they win, they will very much be through into at least the playoff rounds of that. And and they are seen as Hearts are seen as the favourites, and I think earlier on in the show, Alex, you did call Petrol Club like the kind of typical Scottish banana skin, and that's what they are because they're very much in the unknown quantity category, I would say, and that's of no disrespect to Petrol Club. It's not on them, of course, that here in Scotland we don't know all too much about them. So CS Petrol Club are in Moldova and they're currently sitting third in the Moldovan National Division on 23 points. I mean, they're well behind title race wise, as FC Sheriff are top of the league on 36. So they're not even quite a top side in Moldova. So you would like to think that Hearts can get the job done there, wouldn't you?
Yeah, definitely. And I think you look at the Conference League table as well. They're sitting second bottom, 1 point, and they've only scored 2 goals in 5 games.
Yeah,
So they really are not the best outfit.
they
Neither are
they they,
Hearts.
they just
Yeah,
give
neither
me
are Hearts, but
they just give me the feeling of a Progress Niederkorn or a Lincoln Red Imps, or you
yeah,
know,
Yeah.
it's just something that I got those two teams right, didn't I?
yeah,
Uh, so
Yep, yeah,
it,
they're right.
I'll, it's just giving me that feeling. Maybe hopefully Hearts can do it because it would be
and
great. It'd be great to have three Scottish teams progressing to the next round. I think
Yeah.
obviously it's not confirmed for any of them, but I think I'm fairly confident Rangers will be in another round. Celtic have a great opportunity to do so, and obviously it would be great if Hearts could get that.
yeah.
Yeah,
Another
absolutely.
point I was going to say is Petra Club don't have anything to play for either. So they don't have anything to play for. They can't qualify. The only reason they would be playing is for financial benefit.
And
You obviously
Pride,
get pride as well. You get money
Yeah,
for
yeah,
obviously
definitely,
getting
definitely
wins.
kind of pride element, I think, as well. And also, I don't know, I'll be honest, I'm not exactly a Moldovan football historian, so you wonder if this is one of their first forays into Europe and maybe could they be playing for a first European win or something? You don't know. So they may well be, usually pride in themselves and in Moldovan football, but we all very much here at Dugout would like to hope that Hearts could pull through, and obviously, it has been a really good European campaign for the Scottish clubs. I mean, we mentioned it earlier on about the new format really helping our clubs, and just it doesn't help and it probably helped like the Petro Club as well when the smaller clubs in lesser UEFA affiliated nations. So we're starting to see, the kind of effects of the new format in action. Obviously, there was a lot of coverage around, Celtic's Champions League fixtures of, well, they're the easiest out of the whole lot and all this. But it's luck of the draw at the end of the day. And Celtic are in a good position, as are Rangers and Hearts. We're in a good position. They're still in a reasonable enough position, you would say, but obviously time will tell.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and I think Hearts will win. If we're going for predictions, I'm going to put mine out there. I'm going to say 2-0 Hearts.
Okay, so if we're going for predictions, I'll say 3-0, Alex.
5-0 to Hearts.
There we go.
It's a bold one.
Well done.
Mon
But
the
I mean,
Jambos,
tell
you
you
can
what, if
do
we
it.
get the confidence back up and Lauren Shanklin will be back on the side with the armband on now that he served his suspension. Uh, Thank you for saving that for the Kilmarnock game, Lawrence. And yeah, of course, this is heading towards the end here of episode 28 of The Dugout. But before we go, as a lot of this has been, taken up, rightly so, by the League Cup final, remember to check out Alex's article on uwsnewsroom.com. We'll be sharing that on the Twitter as well, at The Dugout 2024. And remember to give us a follow on there. Of course, subscribe as well. Thank you very much for watching and listening. And until next time, goodbye.